Marsh combining with Jones. After CU2, you gave them an opportunity. Here's Jones in his space. Jones is inside the 10. Jones scores. New Zealand are level. New Zealand are level. This wonderful halfback, Stacey Jones, has opened them up.
Stacey Jones, one of the greatest Warriors. I hope you feel the love both sides of the Tasman, because we love you so much. We like to think of you as one of our own, even though we respect, obviously, you're a champion Kiwi. Do you feel the love both sides of the Tasman?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the game has given me so much, and being the Warriors being allowed to play in, you know, an Australian competition, it's given us a lot. So certainly you feel the appreciation. The appreciation is given back.
Young talent with the league pedigree, which is pretty rare, from Point Chevalier. Is that right?
Yep.
Point Chev.
You got it right,
Point Chev if you're a local.
Yeah.
What was it about rugby league, and when did your coaches realise that they had something very special to work with?
Yeah, look, Bonnie, I guess for me, rugby league was in my family. Like, I got two older brothers and they were playing, so they're 2 years older than me. And, you know, I was running around with them in the backyard and, you know, getting knocked around by them. A couple of years older, and you know, my grandfather played it. You know, it was always in the blood. I never got to watch him play, but he played, you know, for New Zealand, and you know, I saw some old footage of him, some old photos. So he was a massive part of me being a part of the game, getting into the game. You know, and I just remember, you know, going Saturday mornings, running around on the field. I think the first year I was just picking daisies, you know, so, playing in my brother's teams and that. So, but yeah, I you know, had an early upbringing around the game.
Manga Emery, there he is, the field side prop. He's got a wonderful hobby. He makes home brew.
You mentioned your grandfather, and I found some old articles, and he's described as this fearsome Kiwi forward. Did play union, moved across to league. There's photos of him getting into fights and belting blokes in these international matches, and how big he was, and he had to get his shirts tailor-made because he was such an enormous man. Manga Emery, and what does manga mean in Māori?
Mountain, I guess. But yeah, we just, you know, I called him Papa, and yeah, you're right, he was a big man, and he played a different position to me. He was a big man, played in the front row, so he didn't give me too many tips around how to be subtle on the footy field. So, but certainly, you know, he was a big part of the game for me growing up. My biggest memory around him wasn't around footy. He used to take us out fishing all the time. That's my best memories of my grandfather, was teaching us how to fish.
Was he a good fisherman? Are you a good fisherman?
I used to be. I don't get out as much as I like to, you know, and he's passed away now, and he was a very good fisherman, you know. He kept things simple, but, you know, every time we went out fishing, we always come home with a feed of fish.
Junior Kiwis captain. So obviously success came pretty early for you. Did you ever think if you wanted to make rugby league your career, you were going to have to leave home, leave Auckland, maybe move to Australia to play in the ARL?
Yeah, well, at the time the Warriors weren't spoken about. There was no mention of a team coming through when I was in my early teens, and obviously the game, like I've said, it was a big part of my life, and the game was becoming more and more on TV, especially back home in New Zealand. You know, the footage we got was really just a VHS cassette. You know, you watch a game a week later. But then the Sky TV came on board, and then you got to watch it live on TV, and the game went to another level. From there, I thought, OK, this, you know, it's quite neat watching these guys be professionals. And I never said I would be one, but it was a dream of mine at that age.
Who was your team? Who would you watch on the old VHS tapes?
Yeah, I used to really like the Roosters, actually, because they had Dean Bowers playing for them, Hugh McGahn. I liked North Sydney with Clayton Friend and Mark Graham, Olsen Filipina, so definitely followed whatever team the Kiwi boys were playing in.
Did you ever want to chase up any opportunities in rugby?
Not really. I never had any opportunities, believe it or not.
Just a leaguey through and through.
Yeah, well, I went to a school. Our school was St Paul's College, and it's a big league school, you know. It was a big league school before I even went there, and so there was no pressure on us to play rugby. There was pressure on us to play league for the school, whereas, you know, probably 99% of schools in Auckland, in New Zealand, you got to play for the school rugby team. But we were a little bit different, which was I didn't mind.
We're very thankful that it was a little bit different and that you know, you followed your heart, you followed your family into league. So the Auckland Vulcans, the Auckland City Vulcans, you're this young playmaker just feeling your way out, and then all of a sudden in 95, we've got the Auckland Warriors, and then this dream you had of being a professional league player is a reality. How did your signing come about?
It came about was 1994. And I had a meeting with Ian Robson, who was the CEO at the time, and me and my mum went along and met him and signed a contract. I think it was a couple of $1,000, and I was, on cloud nine, and went home, and then all of a sudden the dream was starting to become, this could be a real possibility. I knew it was still a long way off. I was probably only 16 at the time, but it was such a great feeling, that knowing that, obviously the Warriors were coming, but then I was able to be in the picture with an opportunity.
And to be able to stay home and still chase your dream, that's a big thing, because we know leaving home, leaving community, a lot of the young men do lose a connection to where they're from, and get lost a little sometimes. So for you to be able to stay home and do everything you've always wanted to do, that's massive.
Yeah, it was massive, but don't get me wrong, if the Warriors weren't there, I'd jump at a heartbeat to get over and play in the NRL. So very fortunate that I was able to stay in New Zealand, in Auckland.
Did you have anyone come knocking?
Look, I had people ask, like clubs ring up my manager and find out. But I was very fortunate enough in my career where I sort of always signed a long-term deal, and when I was up off contract, I'd already signed another deal. So in the back of my mind, I was, I didn't want to go anywhere else.
Alexander takes a heavy shot from Plowman, pops one out wide for Blake. Blake virtually untouched. Blake with a real special for Stacey Jones.
By the time you're a Warrior, you've got Greg Alexander in the halves. So Brandy gets an injury and you're in. Whether you're ready or not, you're straight in. And you were ready. You were more than ready, even though, you're about 19 years old? What was that experience like?
Oh, great experience. I couldn't have asked for a better bloke to learn from, in Brandy. And then I had Gene Namu, who was a Kiwi international, only a couple of years older than me. Him and the team, and there was a good group of strong leaders in that group that sort of made the transition into first grade pretty easy. Steve Kearney was there, Dean Bell, Phil Blake, So I was running around with guys that, wow, this is so, they're going to help me out anyway, so it was great.
We were naturally a little bit more reserved, and we know that the halfback's got to have a voice. So was it a challenge for you to then try and step into that space and marshal people around? Yeah,
that was a challenge. Because it's not in my nature to, come in and tell people what they got to do. But, now that you're a coach, you understand a lot more. Well, as I got older as a player, and it probably wasn't until my second or third year playing international footy for the Kiwis, I realised how important the role is of a halfback, that you have to have a voice. You can't sit back and be quiet. You can't just let your natural talent of running the ball, kicking the ball, you've got to have a voice, and it took me a couple of years to find it, but I'd like to think I got there in the end, yeah.
What did it mean to be a Warrior in those early years?
Oh, there was a lot of hype, there was a lot of hype around at the time. Because the game had gone to another level, like the game, coming on TV, State of Origin, the effect that has on the game back home, So you got all these things, and being a Warrior, you're part of something unique here, we're the only team in New Zealand, and certainly, when the team's not going well, they're from Auckland. If the team's going good, they're from New Zealand. And sometimes they're just from Penrose, which is where the Warriors are based when they're not going good. But, look, it's certainly something special that, being a Warrior, one club in the country was great.
You do feel like you're not just representing one city. You do feel like you've got the entire country with you, good or bad, and that's a massive responsibility. So the good times are boon times, the bad times must feel pretty lonely.
Yeah, they are, and, especially the last couple of years, being based away from home, Earlier on, there were times with ownership changes and whatnot, a lot of coach changes, player changes. So, you know, they can certainly make things, you know, unsettled. And, you know, right now at the moment, the team's going really good because I feel that there's really strong connection at the top. You know, Cameron George is doing a great job. Mark Robinson, the owner, just so passionate about the club. And then Andrew Webster, what he's brought, and you look at the players that how they're playing at the moment. Sean, you know, Tohu, Addenford or Blake. There's a whole bunch of them that are on top of their game. And I just feel that if the leaders are strong in the group, it just feeds its way back down.
Jadwatt says that's tackle 5 from Mears away to Stacey Jones. Another little kick over the top. Odin Ryan is streaming through. It's play on as it's picked up now by Deep. They've got numbers. Stacey Jones. He's over the 20, over the 10. He's going to get near the halfback. That's a beautifully constructed try again. The man that set it up has finished it off.
For you in those early years, you're described as a rare instinctive brilliance, a genius in attack, courageous in defence, because there's not a lot of you, but you threw yourself into every contest. What was that competitiveness or that drive that you had within yourself, and obviously the talent to match?
Yeah, oh, look, I just, you know, you always take it back to, you know, why you play the game, because you loved it growing up, you know, and, you know, the instinctiveness of it was probably just, you know, all those hours and hours of in the backyard or, you know, down the local park. And I wouldn't call myself courageous in defence, though. I used to hide a lot. But, yeah, look, yeah, it just comes back to, you know, loving the game as a kid. You know, is something that, you know, makes you that sort of player that you can be.
And then by 2002, you're in the grand final up against the Roosters. It doesn't get any bigger. What do you remember of the build-up, and how were the emotions on the day? Oh,
look, the build-up was unbelievable. You know, there's only 2 teams left in the comp, how hard it is to get there. And it went so quick, you know, the build-up. You know, we played the semi-final on a Sunday, flew home Sunday night, I think it was, and then had to come back a couple of days later. So it went real quick. The game went real quick, and yeah, losing's not a good memory of that day, Vonnie. But look, from where the club was at to where it got to in that time was something that was pretty special.
There is one moment of that grand final that fans still hang on to, and they still call it one of the most brilliant individual tries. What do you beat about 3 Roosters from 30 metres out, and the Warriors are in the lead, and the unthinkable is now possible. Can you remember seeing the defence and being able to read it?
I don't really remember too much. I just remember, I think got offload from Jerry, and sort of just went through and just opened up.
New Zealand are level.
At 18 years of age, Stacey Jones was tagged as probably New Zealand's greatest ever prospect in rugby league. Well, he's now 26, and I tell you what, don't worry about just Kiwis. He can stand alongside some of the modern greats of the game. He's a champion, Stacey Jones.
I'd certainly give that moment back any day of the week for a different result.
The heartbreak of losing a grand final obviously stays with you, and I was reading some fans' recollections, even though it's, what, 20 years ago now. And they said, we'll never forget how Stacey made us feel. Even though he had tears in his eyes, he stayed, he signed autographs, he spoke to us. And even though they were hurting, they recognised that you were going through it in exactly the same time. And they've never forgotten how you made them feel important.
It was an exciting week, and you know, it was great to be a part of this, and obviously we're very disappointed, you know, but we'll pick ourselves up from this and come back better and stronger. And thanks to all our supporters that came over from New Zealand. Thanks a lot.
Just coming together in that moment.
Yeah, look, I wasn't the only one. There was, you know, 16 other blokes too that were feeling like that and did the same stuff, you know. And you know, we had an unbelievable coach, Daniel, you know, that gave us some good belief around that time. And not only belief taught us around footy, it was just life in general too, what he gave us, you know, Daniel. So, yeah, it was a special group to be a part of, like I said, from where we'd come from.
3 tackles and they've covered more than half the length of the field. Jones. Persistent. Oh! Jones is on his way! Jones! Solo effort!
You've got such strong core values. Loyalty is spoken about often. Why did you remain so loyal to the Warriors?
I don't know. I guess it's probably like anything in life. You just sort of, if it's close to you, if it's important to you, then that's what loyalty is, you know. You're loyal to your friends, your family. And the Warriors were no different. They're, you know, a big part of my life for a long, long time. You know, the only time was I left the Warriors and went and played in France, well, in the Super League for a couple of years, which I really enjoyed.
Super League, Catalans, you take them to a Challenge Cup final. Success, you drive your teams to success. What was that experience like? And it must have seemed pretty exotic playing in France.
Yeah. Well, it was, you know. I mean, when I went there, I was thinking, oh, this will be cool, don't have to travel anymore. No, we've got to travel to the UK every second week. So that was, oh, OK, all good. But, I mean, it was a great place. France was, the culture there, very similar to New Zealand, like to the Māori culture. Like they're very, you know, tight in their groups around the family and whatnot. And I loved it there. 2 years there. The weather was beautiful. My kids were at an age where they were just starting out school, so they picked up a bit of French while they were there. I was hopeless. But a great place and a great experience for the family. Met some really neat people there, and some, you know, like Mark Hughes is a good mate of mine. Jason Croker, a good mate. Yeah, some really good people that I met over there.
Internationals was where the rest of the world got to fall in love with you. Do you remember your very first Kiwi cap? Yep.
We nearly got beaten too by Tonga, and we should have got beaten if it wasn't for Matthew Ridge dropping a field goal. It was over in the UK in the '95 World Cup, and I think we were down like 24-12 with 5 minutes to go, and we scored 2 quick tries, and then he drops a field goal. So my international career could have been over fairly quickly if it wasn't for Ridgie.
One of your coaches, Frank Endicott, said he remembered giving you your jersey, and then he walked through the hotel corridor and all the players had their room doors open, and everyone's just relaxing and going through their own process. And he said he looked into your room and you're sitting there watching the TV with your Kiwi number 7 jersey on. Did it mean so much to you? Were you that proud?
Yeah, I was very proud. Growing up with the game and going back to my grandfather playing for New Zealand, and like that was my first love of the game, was watching the Kiwis play, you know. And you know, the Kiwis of the 80s is, you know, folklore for me back home, you know. So yeah, it was a special moment.
What are some of the best moments? The test tours, the Anzac test matches, the Tri-Nations. What stands out for you?
We had some really good moments. I remember playing an Anzac Day test in New Zealand at North Harbour, and we beat Australia. We played Allen Road in the Tri-Nations final. That was pretty cool. We won that. Yeah, there's plenty of games not to talk about too.
What's the thrill in beating the Aussies? Like, it's got to be a kick.
Yeah, you know, it's probably similar to, say, you know, the Wallabies beating the All Blacks, you know. Doesn't happen that often, and when you when it happens, you're very happy. So, but, you know, they're the pinnacle. Like, I mean, you know, you got State of Origin, that, you know, that's up there, but then they pick their best players for Australia, and you're up against the best. You know it's going to be a challenge, and when you are able to get a job done, you cherish those moments.
The tone of a test match is very different, and the Kiwis certainly bring a lot of power, they bring a lot of physicality, they bring a lot of finesse. And does it feel like you're at the top of the world, you're playing the best of the best, and you're representing everyone from back home? One
thing with the Kiwi jersey, like, you know, the culture around it, you know, like, we don't have Origin, you know, so I don't know what, if you ask, you know, an Origin player, is it more special play for your state or for your country, you know, and I'd say some of them might say it might be their state. You know, I don't know, I could be wrong, but for us, it's our country, you know, representing, you know, and the Kiwi jerseys, one thing I do remember is, you know, when you come into that environment, you do feel the culture change, different to clubland, you know, and different sort of a feeling, but it's a strong, strong feeling.
Who was your greatest competitor on the world stage?
I always loved my challenge battles with Joey, you know, and I'd say every halfback of our era would have said that, you know, and, every time you got one over him, it was special, but didn't happen that often, Bonnie, you know. So, you know, like the good thing about playing with him, and even Alf, you know, was, you know, you could go and have a beer with them after the game and just, you know, give each other, I can't swear, but, you know, a bit of a ribbing, and it was more often them giving me a ribbing.
Because what is that? Away from the field, you're all actually quite similar. Joey, Alfie, Stace, you're all legends. The fans absolutely adore you all, and you all like to just kick back and relax afterwards.
Yeah. I think that's a big part of it, you know. You know, the game's probably changed a little bit where they're a bit more professional and you can't sort of show yourself a little as much as you can, but yeah, that's a good part of the game, you know. It's a good part where you can sort of catch up and just talk rubbish. Yeah.
How did it feel in 2002 to be heralded as the greatest player that we have in the world, the Golden Boot? What was that honour like?
Yeah, it was certainly, you know, something special, very special, you know, because it'd been going around for a while, the Golden Boot, and I never thought that, you know, I was in contention for it, and yeah, no, it was, yeah, something that I was very proud of.
Now, you saved the club 100 times on the field, and then more recently they needed your services in the coach's box. You've got experience with coaching, but what were the challenges? How difficult was that at that time in after COVID, and to jump in, and the Warriors must have felt so disconnected from who they are and where they're from at that point.
Yeah, it certainly was a challenge. Believe it or not, though, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being, you know, interim coach for that period of time, purely because I knew I wasn't going to be doing it for long term, you know. So I said, oh, well, let's just enjoy it here, and it was about you know, keeping our head above water. Like, there was a lot of stuff that was going on, and, you know, being away from home, and, you know, players being homesick, and, you know, even staff being homesick. And the good thing when I actually took over, there was a bit of light at the end of the tunnel that we were going home for some games, you know, but we still had to come back because we were based in Australia. But, you know, it certainly was a challenge, but it probably, you know, when you look at that, it's probably where it's put the club in now, you know, because we were able to be back home, reconnect with not just our fans, but sponsors, people that work in the office, you know, and just the country in general, that we can get back home, and you sometimes realise when something's taken away from you, how actually special it is that when you do get it back.
And now the Warriors are the best ticket in town. Your home games are like a rock concert. The fans are off their head about it. What's it like now to be part of that? Go back into Mount Smart Stadium, and you've even, you know, you've travelled around. You've got Waikato coming up. The Warriors are the best thing in New Zealand.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, even at our captain's run, we get so many people turn up. It's like, you know, there's a lot of reasons behind it, you know, and I'll go back to, you know, I'll talk about Mark Robinson, Cameron George, Webby, the players, you know, the senior players on the team have been unreal, you know, Sean, Tohu, Adam, Mitch Barnett, Dylan Walker, you know, Wade Egan, you know, they've been, you know, immense for the group, and they're just buying into, you know, what the club is all about, you know, with our, you know, morals and what, you know, the people at top that I've mentioned, what they've instilled, what they want, and we're all heading in the right direction, where probably in the last few years it was used that way. We weren't sort of going in the same way, but it seems to be going pretty good at the moment, touch wood, that, you know, we can, you know, get a few more wins this year.
Warriors looking for their 6th try as Walker. Vanilla Blake running wide, gets it on to Johnson, who scores. Oh, they're unstoppable tonight, the Warriors.
Shaun Johnson has surprised all the critics. Did you think he was capable of not just recapturing this sort of form, but evolving as a decision maker, as a leader?
Yeah.
Did you, and a lot of the credit's been placed on your shoulders, what has changed between you and Shaun? What's changed for Shaun?
Yeah, look, obviously Webby has been made wonders for him. Rich Agar, I've always said that his defence is what's improved the most. Shaun's always he's known how to kick a ball. He knows how to do that. He knows how to run the ball. He's got a very strong voice, very clever upstairs around the game. But he's just he's our best defender on the edges at the moment, you know, and you know, he's not leaking anything, and he's getting confidence from that, you know. And yeah, Rich Agar looks after our edges, and he's done a wonderful job with Sean, and Sean's bought into it, you know, and a lot of players have. So his form, like, would I have said he'd be playing as well as he had? I would have thought, well, maybe not, but. You know, Sean's always been a good player, a really good player, but I just feel he's playing, you know, as good as any halfback's ever played the way at the moment, and, you know, we're all excited about it.
You've got Roger Tuivasa-Sheck still to squeeze in, and the Warriors are playing such a complete style. People are now saying, how are you going to get Sheck back in? And that's a fantastically strong position to find yourselves as a team.
Yeah, it is. I'm glad I don't have to make that decision. So, but yeah, it's going to be great to have Roger back. You know, like, it was a shame when he left the game, not only just for the Warriors, but for the game in general, you know. And, you know, let's hope when he comes back that he's going to be the same player he was. And I'm sure he will, because Roger's a professional.
What's the cultural connection and the revolution and the togetherness, the unity that Andrew Webster's been able to bring into this team?
Yeah, look, he's been himself, and the good thing about Webby, for him, like, he was here a few years ago, so as an assistant under Andrew McFadden, and a lot of players that are here now weren't here, but there's still a few that were, and he really understands the landscape of the group. I think Ivan Cleary's had a big influence on him. You know, obviously Ivan spent a lot of time here at the Warriors, and, you know, it's probably helped him out a bit. And yeah, I just, you know, he's very clear on his messaging. You know, he delivers a wonderful game plan to the group, and he gets buy-in from the group, and he allows us the other coaches to do our job, and helps us out as well.
I've heard that there's been an uptake of about 30% in junior rugby league right across New Zealand, just off the back of the success of the Warriors. Does it feel like you're back on top?
Oh, look, I know there's a long way to go, you know, but, you know, the hype around the team at the moment is very strong. And, look, you know, we're not getting carried away with, you know, because, you know, this game is so funny, you know, like, you can have a couple of bad days and all of a sudden you're struggling a bit. So, but all the things that are happening at the moment seem to be going in the right direction.
Stacey Jones, a champion who is loved right around the rugby league world. Thank you so much.
No worries, Bonnie. Pleasure.